Once upon a time, in a small village surrounded by lush green fields, there lived a farmer named Tobias. Tobias was known throughout the village not for his kindness or generosity, but for his greed. He owned a large farm with a variety of animals, crops, and a modest barn. Yet, no matter how much he harvested or earned, it was never enough. One day, while inspecting his fields, Tobias noticed an unusual commotion in the corner of his barn. Curious, he followed the sounds and was astonished to find a goose, golden and shimmering in the sunlight. The goose was unlike any he had ever seen, with feathers that sparkled and a beak that glowed faintly. Tobias, intrigued, decided to keep the goose and watch over it closely. The next morning, he was startled when he found, nestled among the hay, an egg of pure gold. He could hardly believe his eyes. He rubbed his hands together, greed welling up inside him. With a goose like this, I'll be the richest man in the village. No, perhaps in the entire kingdom, he exclaimed. From that day forward, the goose laid a golden egg every morning. Tobias grew richer and richer, his barn filling with gold. But as the days passed, so did his greed. He was no longer satisfied with just one golden egg each day. "Why must I wait for just one egg?" he grumbled. "What if I could get all the gold at once?" Tobias began to neglect the rest of his farm. He sold off his other animals and ignored the crops that once provided his livelihood, relying solely on the golden eggs. The villagers grew wary of Tobias as he became more distant and obsessed with his wealth. He hoarded his gold and refused to share, not even offering to help those in need. One night, unable to sleep, Tobias lay in bed, his thoughts swirling with greed. He concocted a plan. "If I cut the goose open," he whispered to himself, "I can get all the gold inside her at once. Then I'll never have to wait again." The idea consumed him, and despite the goose's soft coos from the barn, he hardened his heart. At dawn, Tobias crept into the barn, carrying a knife with a wicked glint. The goose, sensing something was wrong, waddled away, her golden feathers catching the first light of morning. But Tobias was determined. "Hold still," he hissed, cornering the poor creature. With a swift, ruthless motion, he did the unthinkable. But as Tobias opened the goose, his face twisted from greed to horror. There was no treasure inside, only the lifeless body of the creature he had killed. There were no golden eggs hidden away, no endless supply of riches. Tobias's face turned pale as he realized what he had done. In his desire for more, he had destroyed the very source of his fortune. Tobias's farm, once prosperous, soon fell into disrepair. Without the golden eggs to sustain his greed, he had nothing left. His crops had withered from neglect, and the villagers, seeing the once proud farmer brought low, offered no help. His wealth, once so abundant, dwindled